back again. We are back again, me and Nigel, aren't we, Nigel?
We certainly are.
Nigel wants to do something else, didn't you, Nigel? Nigel wanted to talk about, what did you want to talk about, Nigel?
Well, I think this is important. Something I've been working on for quite a while. And as you'll see in the title of the video, we're calling it the Great Mortgage Fraud.
Yeah, which you want to explain, don't you? So do you want me to go over with the picture?
Well, if you can put that fractional reserve picture up first, then that's
Okay,
probably the first one that people are going to need to understand.
So, right, so we're there now. Now I've got the basic fractional reserve banking cycle, so it's there. Off you go, Nigel.
Right, I can't see it. Are you sharing the screen?
It's the whole screen has that picture on it.
My screen doesn't. You're not sharing with me.
No, you have to do it from your one then. I told you it's on my email.
Right, okay. Just hang on one sec. Let me pull it up. And then I'll explain it, because I think this is something important that people actually need to understand before we actually go into the fraud itself. Okay, so what we're looking at is essentially how the banking system works. So let's put this in some kind of perspective. We've got customer number one. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that's me. And I go into the bank and I deposit $1,000 into my bank account, £1,000, whatever currency, it doesn't matter. Now, the bank only has to keep 10% of its deposits, so it can loan 900 of my $1,000, let's say, to Karen, just for argument's sake. Karen takes that $900, as you can see, and goes and puts it in her bank account. Now, at that particular point, as you can see on the right, at this point, there's $1,900 in the system, but the bank only has 100 because it's kept 100 of my dollars and it's loaned the other 900 to Karen. Now, you might say, well, that's still 1,000, and it says there it's 1,900 in the system, because I could go in at any point to withdraw my $1,000, but they've already lent 900 of it to Karen, so there is 1,900 in the system. So Karen goes into her bank and she deposits that 900, and again, the bank have to keep back 10%, which is 90, and they can then loan the remaining 810 to James. So at that point, there's $2,710 in the system, but the bank only actually has $190 of physical cash. Then James goes into his bank and he deposits that $810. The bank has to keep 10%, which is 81. They can loan 729 to Claudio. And at that point, there's $3,439 in the system, but the bank only has 271. Now, all of that $3,439 has been created by my deposit of $1,000. So that's essentially how the banking system works. Now, if James and Karen and I all go into the bank at the same time, I want to withdraw my $1,000, Karen wants to withdraw her 900, and James wants to withdraw his 810, the bank only actually has $271 in physical cash remaining from the initial $1,000. So what can they do? How is it possible for the bank to pay out $3,439 physical dollars when they physically only have 271? Now you can say, yeah, okay, well maybe they're going to get it from other funds and other people's accounts and other depositors, and that's fair comment. But let's just suppose for a minute that this is a brand new bank. They don't have any other account holders. They don't have any other depositors. So the only amount of cash that is physically in that bank system is $271. But we've now got three people, collectively asking the bank for $3,439. Okay, does that make sense?
Right.
So the only way that they can do that, the only way that they can provide us with the cash is to physically create it from nothing. They literally print it from nothing, from thin air. They create enough cash to be able to pay us, to pay out our deposits. Now, from there, the next step is loans. We, all our lives, we have been led to believe that when we go to the bank for a loan, the bank will take the money from other depositors' accounts, loan it to us, we then pay that back with interest, and from the interest that we pay, the bank gives or pays the account holders, the depositors, their 1% or 2% or whatever, and they keep the rest. That's how they make their money.
Do I have to keep this picture up, by the way, or have you finished with the picture?
Say again?
Do you want me to keep this picture up, or have we finished with this picture?
No, you can take that picture down. I just want people watching this to understand that, you know, if a bank starts with nothing, and it gets to the point where it's got 3 depositors going in there all asking for their money back, then the only way that they can do that is to create the money from thin air. Now, another example.
Hold that breath. Hold a breath a minute. Hold a breath a minute, because I need to just do something. Right. Right, we're back on the Hangout now.
Okay. All right. So, people should understand from that, essentially, that is how the banking system works. They print everything into existence. Now, another quick example that I can give you is, let's supposing that we live in a community of, I don't know, 10,000 people, just for argument's sake, and we decide, okay, I'm going to open a bank. I'm going to open Nigels Bank, and I'm going to create Nigel dollars. Just as a silly example. So anybody can come into the bank and they can borrow Nigel dollars, and we're just for ease of mental arithmetic, let's just call it 10% interest. So let's say right at the beginning, I create out of thin air 1 million Nigel dollars, and I loan that out to various people at 10% interest. Now, after a year, I'm really bored. I don't want to play this game anymore. So I decide that I'm going to close the bank. So I say to all the people that have borrowed money, please, I'm closing the bank. Please give me all the Nigel dollars back. So I get 1 million Nigel dollars back because that's what I printed in the beginning. But I'm still owed 100,000 Nigel dollars in interest because I was charging 10% interest. So the question has to be, where do those 100,000 Nigel dollars come from? The interest, where does the interest come from? It doesn't exist because I never created it. I only ever printed 1 million Nigel dollars, loaned those out at 10% interest. So at the end of the year, I'm actually owed, or the bank, Nigel Bank is owed $1.1 million. So 1,100,000. But I only ever created 1 million. So the $100,000 that I'm trying to charge in interest just actually does not exist. It doesn't exist. Now, when we take that exponentially and look at a particular country, you know, with the trillions of dollars or whatever of currency, it's quite hard to get your head around. That there is a finite amount of money that has been printed, and most of it, if not all of it, comes from loans. It's all debt. Now, I've not been in the UK for a long time. Karen, let me ask you a question. On a 5 or 10 or 20 pound note, does it still say, Bank of England, I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of? Does it still say that on the new ones?
I don't know. I haven't got any cash on me at the moment. I just put everything in the bank, and I've got nothing in the bank at the moment, so I don't know. I know. I don't
Right,
look.
okay. No, well, nobody does. But I remember it used to say, I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of, whatever the denomination was, £5, £10, £20, or whatever. So if I was there right now, I would take a £10 note and I would walk into the Bank of England and say, I am the bearer of this £10 note. You promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £10. Well, I'm demanding £10. What are they going to give me? Well, they're going to give me another tenner. They're going to give me another £10 note, because what are they talking about? So I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of. So essentially what our currency is, or what all currency is an IOU. Nothing more, nothing less. It's simply an IOU. I promise to pay you on demand the sum of. It's an IOU. The other word that is used is called a promissory note. Well, let's do a James on that, shall we? Let's do what James would do. Promissory. Promise, sorry. Promise, oh, sorry. Promissory note. So essentially all currency, doesn't matter which country you live in, all currency is essentially a IOU. It's all debt based. Now, we're going to put up a link in the description on this for an observation deck YouTube channel, video over on BitChute. He dared put it up on YouTube, and it's a courtroom role play from a lender, a borrower, and the bank that he got his mortgage from. Now, you're probably going to have to watch it a couple of times to get your head around it. But essentially, although it's a role play, it's actually based on a genuine court case. So it's based on a real transcript. And the banker just really ties himself up in knots. So it's a really good example, but it's still quite difficult to get your head around. So I'm going to try and explain it in more simple terms. And I already had this chat with Karen, and she was just blown away. But it's not difficult, but it's not easy either. So forget everything that we've ever been taught about mortgages and loans and everything, and so on and so forth. When you walk into a bank and ask them for a mortgage, ask them to borrow, to lend you some money, you fill in a form, a contract. You're making a contract between yourself and the bank. Now let's keep it simple. Whether we use dollars, pounds, whatever. Let's just say 100,000. So you go to the bank, you want to borrow £100,000 to buy a house, or $100,000 to buy whatever. When you walk into the bank and you sign that form, essentially what you're doing is you're saying to the bank, look, I am prepared to pay $100,000 or £100,000 if you can give me that £100,000 right now. So the bank go, okay, not a problem. So what they do is they go and literally create out of thin air £100,000 and give you a bank check. The money does not exist, or did not exist. And had you not walked into the bank and signed that, essentially that contract, or that promissory note, whatever you want to call it, then that £100,000 does not exist and did not exist until such time as you put your signature on that piece of paper or on that contract. Once you've done that, you are, as far as the bank's concerned, you're the debtor, because the bank will go away and they'll come back with £100,000, $100,000 check and say, there you go. So they've created that out of thin air. So you go off and you buy your house or your car or whatever you want to do, and then you have to make monthly payments, but you're also having to pay interest on that loan. So what are you actually paying interest on? If you go back to my example of the Nigel dollars, you owe me, or the whole community owes me 100,000 Nigel dollars that were never ever printed into existence. They never existed. I never printed them. They don't exist. It's the same with interest. It was never ever printed into existence. So essentially the £100,000 that the bank has given you was never the bank's £100,000. It's your £100,000. You created that into existence. Okay? Look, I guess in the same way that, you know, if a married couple have a baby, they created that baby. But if they didn't get married, or, you know, hadn't got together at that particular time on that particular night, and she became pregnant, then that baby may never have existed, or if that makes any kind of sense. Probably a poor analogy, but so you've got this meeting of two people, the lender and the borrower, who are between them are creating the baby, which is the £100,000. Had that borrower never gone into the bank and signed that document, signed that promissory note, then that $100,000 or £100,000 would never ever have been created. And it's fictitious anyway, because the bank have created it out of thin air. So then you've got to go back to the bank over the next 25, 30 years to pay back the money that you borrowed, that you created in the first place. You never actually borrowed it from the bank because the bank didn't have it. They didn't loan you money from savings accounts, depositors accounts, investments accounts. They didn't loan you money that was actually in existence at the time that you signed that contract. So you created that £100,000, $100,000. You created it when you signed the document. It didn't exist until that time. So what are you paying back? The bank didn't actually give you anything. They only pretended to give you something. Because all they did, they wrote a number on a check that's honoured, you know, throughout the banking system, because again, we're all talking about the same system. But that £100,000 really does not exist. Now, what you've actually done by signing that contract and giving it to the bank, you have given that contract value. You have created value. So the bank essentially could sell that contract to somebody else on the open market for £100,000. But where did the £100,000 come from? They created it out of thin air. If they sold that contract to a third party who actually gave them £100,000 in cash, well, the bank's just made £100,000. And you've still got to pay it back because you quote unquote borrowed it, but you didn't borrow it. And you've got to pay interest. You're paying interest on something that doesn't exist. How crazy is this?
Yeah, we have done a little bit of this on Sun and Moon. Other people have been talking about it. So yeah, I do understand what you're going on about.
Well, I think if people have a look at the Roberts video, observation index video, and get their head around it, but this is something that affects all of us. And the fact is that, you know, even past loans that you've had for cars that you bought 20, 30 years ago, that you paid interest on, you're entitled to that money back because you paid that money from your hard-earned labor. And that's another topic that we'll get onto in a minute at the tail end, because that's something else I want to touch on. So you got to work.
The money to buy the car, didn't they? I mean, you had the money go into your bank account. So where do they get that from then? Because
they create it out of thin air.
Say a car costs £5,000, you might have £100 deposit, 4,900 and whatever comes out as and then they pay you that and it goes into your account.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's the old saying, it's not worth the paper it's printed on. And it's not, because all it is, they're just literally printing it out of thin air, which is what the Federal Reserve does, the Bank of England does, and all these central banks. They're just creating it out of thin air. You are actually creating the cash. You are, if you didn't sign that document, if you didn't sign that loan document, whether it's for a car loan or a mortgage, then that amount of money is not in existence. It does not exist. You actually create it, you bring it into existence with your signature. Until that point, that money does not exist. So they print it out of thin air, and then you've got to give it, I mean, physical cash, what we call hard-earned cash. You're working and sweating and toiling to earn money in order to pay back the bank or pay the bank. We think we're paying them back, but we're not paying them back because they never gave it us in the first place. They created it. They created it out of thin air. Now, the next step where this fraud has been perpetrated for all these years is in what we know as income tax. Now, there are two ways. There are two ways of getting money. And there's two terms that we use. You either make money or you earn money. And there's a big difference between making money and earning money. Earning money means you've got to work. You are expending, using your energy, whether it be mental, whether it be physical. You're actually exchanging your energy for money, for cash. So you are earning money. Therefore, why should you pay tax? Why would anybody or should anybody have the right to say, right, Karen, you worked 40 hours that week, you've earned that, I'm going to take 10, 20% or whatever, which equates to, I don't know, say 10 hours work. What right do they have to take that money away from you? Because you've earned that money. Now, when they go on to making money, that's different. If I buy something for I'll just say $1 and I sell it for $10, and I've made $9 profit, but what have I done? Have I used my energy? Have I actually worked for that,
Well, I know
for that
that you're
$9 profit, or have I just made it?
I know that you're telling the truth, because I tried to tell you about what happened to me, although there's nothing can be done about my case. What I did was I got a card. There was a number on the back. They asked me to call the number to activate the card. You don't do that anymore, but that's what they did. There was a computer problem which added this PPI product onto my card, but I wasn't included in the PPI product. Basically, what they did was they put wrong charges on my bank account, but decided, because the High Court said about PPI products being refunded to people, that they included me in that PPI thing. But putting wrong charges on your bank, on your accounts, is not the same thing. So basically, the bank then say that they haven't got my information and send me to the ombudsman. The ombudsman make me wait 5 years, and then the ombudsman say, "Oh, we can't help you because of the time." So the only people that won with the bank, the ombudsman is the same jurisdiction as a judge. So she has they have the same, they have the same level as a judge. So instead of going with the people, they went with the banks who are paying them. Every time someone brings a case to the ombudsman, the banks have to pay for that. But anyway, they still went with the bank.
Yeah, well, they're all part of the same system.
All the law, they wanted, because of PPI, they used consequential loss, and they went that way. They could have used the Misinterpretation Act of 1967, and etc. They could have done things so differently. But because they put you in the PPI thing, but there are thousands of people like me who had wrong charges, and it's below the belt, because when I looked up the Data Information Act and all those acts, basically the chief executive is told when these problems happen, and then he then should have come public and told the truth to the people that wrong charges had been put on people's accounts, but they didn't. So this whole thing is fraud, just like Nigel's talking about. He's talking about loans that they fraud you all the time, and the ombudsman are helping them. And so the ombudsman is this great big government body being paid thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds each year to do nothing. They do nothing. They used to, I think, but things have changed nowadays. They do nothing. But anyway, back to you, Nigel. I just wanted to put that in there. It really, really annoyed me. Really, really annoyed me. I spent 5-6 years on this for nothing. But that's what they did.
Well, for those who don't know, and I didn't know when we were talking about this yesterday, is that PPI, I think, is personal protection insurance in case you default. But the whole thing's a complete scam. Now, here's something else that people don't realise, and
the whole of our life is a scam, all of it.
Yeah, all of it. So if you go to the bank and you say, right, I want to apply for a credit card, and they give you a credit card, and let's say they give you a £10,000 limit on that credit card, that £10,000 does not exist. It's not real. It hasn't been created yet. Each time you go out and use your card, however much you spend on your card is created by the bank. It's created by the system. It's brought into existence. So by the time you've maxed out your credit card at £10,000, that £10,000 has been created over a period of time and has literally been brought into being. Okay? In just the same way that people have a baby, that baby...
Is that what they want us to do? Is that making money? Is that what they want us to do?
Well, that's how they make their money. That's why they've screwed us over for years, and that's how they make all their money. Because once you max your credit card out, you've actually got to go and pay them physical cash to the tune of £10,000 that really and truly didn't exist until such time as you signed for the credit card. They said, well, we'll give you a 10,000 limit.
Money, then. This is how they make money.
That's exactly how they make their money. But what they're doing is
money for you. This is how they make the money for today. Is by they want you to max your card out so they can make money. I mean, literally.
Yeah, because the more you quote unquote spend on your card, the more you've actually got to physically pay back in hard cash, which really and truly is just.
What I'm saying is, it's not about making them money. It's about actually making the money.
Oh yeah, they are literally making money, but they're making money from us, from stupid people like us, because they've conned us for all these years. We always thought that if you get a loan, that money is in existence and it comes out of other people's accounts, investors or savings or whatever, but it doesn't. They actually create it into existence. And then when you've got to pay it back plus interest, you're actually paying back what you brought into existence at the time you signed the mortgage or the loan document.
Nigel, you and I have been looking at videos today. We actually kind of realise what they're doing to us. Even what they're doing to us with the Lyris is all about making money.
Yeah.
So why have they done this to the banking system right now? Because isn't just
because it all started with in 1933. I mean, it's plenty of information out there. In 1933, when the American government went bankrupt, and I think, to be honest, every country in the world is bankrupt. So they had to create a system of debt, and we are essentially, for want of a better word, debt slaves. But they pulled the wool over our eyes and they conned us. Because the money that is actually physically in existence, i.e. cash, we can go and earn that. We can go and work and we can get physically paid in physical cash. But then we have to go to the bank and pay use some of that cash to pay off our loan or pay our mortgage. But we're actually paying something that never existed until such time as we signed the loan document, which brought that money into existence. So technically it doesn't exist. We're paying back interest falsely, again, back to the Nigel Bank. I never printed any interest. Interest does not exist. The bank only ever prints or creates the principal. The interest is fictitious. That's how they make their money. But we're actually paying back the principal, and the principal is what people like us brought into existence when we signed the original mortgage or loan agreement. So we're actually the creditor, not the debtor. They've swung it round to make us the debtor and the bank the creditor. Well, how can the bank be the creditor when they never actually had the money to loan us until we brought it into existence by signing the loan document or the mortgage document? They flipped it. They flipped the whole thing on us. Complete reversal. So technically, we're actually entitled to every cent or every penny that we have ever paid to a bank for a mortgage or for a loan, and especially the interest, because the interest was never created.
Because they've lied to us. Because they've lied to us.
Interest is a lie. Yeah. Now, at this point,
So basically, they've broken the agreement then because they lied. Because
well, no, they didn't break the agreement. It's what's called non-disclosure, and that makes the contract void.
Because that's what the Misinterpretation Act is when
Yes.
they know what they're doing and they've broken things, you're due to have all your money back. That's what it is. It's the Misinterpretation Act of 1967. Everybody should look that act up.
It's misinterpretation due to non-disclosure. Now, in this courtroom role play, you'll see the lawyer ask the banker.
It's not in any paperwork, the truth. If the truth was in there, they'd be covered. But they don't tell us the truth, so they've broken their contract.
Well, no, the truth is not in the paperwork. The truth is not in the paperwork. The lawyer asked the banker, are the terms in this contract able to be understood by just regular people? You know, terms like loan and borrow and lender and he's going, yeah, no problem. But then the banker ties himself up in knots by trying to use trying to justify it by saying, well, that's what we've always done. That's what the CEO of the bank told us to do.
And these are the people these are the corporations that run us. Yeah.
But don't forget, corporation is a dead entity. Corporation is a dead entity. So this is why what's happening now, if people have been following what Karen and I have been talking about, and other people, where supposedly the certain members of the government are going to have to pay for, or be held accountable for what they've done during the Lyras. So this is where we have to kind of get it round into our heads that you don't write to the bank, you don't write to the bank manager, because that's a fiction. You find out the bank manager's name and you write to him personally as a living, breathing man or woman. And what you're doing is you're basically putting it in such a way that you're holding them personally
accountable. So the chief executive then, the chief executive.
Well, you can't write to the bank and expect a reply from the bank. You're going to get a reply from somebody who works in the bank or works for the bank.
Like I told you, I can't remember his whole name now. His name's Antonio Horto Azaro. That's it. He is the chief. Well, he is the chief executive of Lloyds Bank. So you write to him. That's all.
Well, yeah, but whoever that is, what I'm saying is, before it goes outside the bank, if you've got an issue to take up with the bank, then you've got to take it up with the bank. But you can't take it up with the quote unquote bank. You have to take it up with a person, and you have to take it up with a named person. You can't write to the bank manager. You know, if the bank manager at your local bank is Richard Jones, then you've got to write to Richard Jones. And you've got to write to the living man and talk to the living man and hold him personally accountable for your grievance. And you've got to give them so many days to sort it out, to fix it. Everything's about contract. Everything's about contract. Agreement called Meeting of the Minds. There's an excellent
because all
website.
This, when you take loans and things out, affects your credit rating.
Well, you can't actually take out a loan. You can only create one. As soon as you sign that loan agreement, you have brought that amount of money into existence, and the bank will actually create it. It's just a number. This is why they want all this digital currency, because it doesn't exist. It's just a number. It's just numbers on a computer screen. Now, I saw a video a while ago. I can't remember who it was, but a guy actually went to court, took the bank to court, and because he stopped paying his mortgage, and the bank obviously threatened to take him to court. So they went to court, and the simple question was, well, can you demonstrate? Can you give us evidence that at the time the loan was granted, that amount, that money was actually in existence, and that you actually loaned it from other people's accounts, or your own funds, the bank's assets, the bank's funds? Can you prove that it came from the bank's assets or money that the bank held? At the time, they said no. We said, well, what did you lend him? Well, we just lent him however much, but where did it come from? Did it exist at the time the loan was granted? No. Well, what's he paying back then? You can't pay back something that doesn't exist.
Right.
I think at this point I should make it clear to anybody listening to this that I'm not giving financial advice. I have to say that I'm not giving financial advice. All I'm saying is this is perhaps the deepest rabbit hole that any of us have ever been down. This, I know it's my favourite phrase, but this is off the charts. This is mind-blowing rabbit hole, and people need to go and research it, learn about it, because this affects every single person, every married person. Sorry, I had to throw that in. This affects everyone. Every pair of ears listen to this.
With the death certificate, there's another one that they do it through. That's another con as well, but carry on.
Well, it just affects every one of us, because we've all had loans at some time in our life. We've all had mortgages at some time in our life. And we've actually had our hard-earned cash stolen from us by the fictitious, fraudulent banking system.
So what do you
and they have to be held accountable.
What do you suggest people do then?
I suggest the first thing people need to do is watch the video, Robert's video from the observation deck. There's also another...
the link to that video will be in the description of this hangout. Right.
There's also another YouTube channel and website, Crow 777, CRROW 777.
Right.
And he's done loads of interviews. Sorry?
Yeah. Crow. I like Crow.
Yeah, me too. He's done loads of interviews with people that know a lot more about this than I do right now. And also Observation Deck channel, Robert, on YouTube and on BitChute. He's done a lot of work on this, and bless him, he's written an awesome book called The Lien Machine, Lien, and of course that's got lie in it. We all know what a lien is. It's a charge on your property. He's written an absolutely awesome book. You can get it on his website, and you can find a link on all his videos on YouTube and BitChute. That's something else that people need to get their hands on and read up, because this isn't something that people can just run out and do, you know, like a bull in a china shop, proverbially. And people need to do the research. They need to look at past cases. They need to look at the words used, the questions asked in some of these role play court cases, and write them down. All the instructions are there. There's links in all these videos to take you to other sources of information where you can download free forms and information that will help you put your own case together before you go and plonk it on the bank manager's desk and say, you know, basically either give me back everything I paid you, or we'll see you in court, and then you'll have to pay even more for your lawyer and the court costs and everything else. But this is bigger than Ben-Hur. This is absolutely off the charts, crazy, fraudulent business that has been going on for decades and decades and decades, and it needs to stop.
Is that what's
Anything
happening
you want
now,
to finish with there, Karen?
Is that why we're like where we are right now?
It's why we're all where we are right now. All of us, every single living, breathing human being. This is why we're all where we are right now, because we're all enslaved to a fictitious, fraudulent banking system.
Well, this is something separate, like I told you, because I went to the Ombudsman, but it was the same thing. What I could see was it was fraud, and that's what I was stuck in. But there wasn't enough people jumping up and down. There was just me. I can't stop everything on my own. But I knew what they did. It was fraud over what they did by putting those wrong charges on. But that's something separate. But it's the same sort of thing.
Well, yeah, but as we said yesterday, going to the Ombudsman, you know, they're supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to be an arbitrator between you and the other party, but they're all part of the same system. That's the problem, and that's where we actually get lost in the system, because we think we're talking to somebody that can help, but they're part of the same system that's got us trapped in the first place.
Well, they're only promoting from that system, so that's why it doesn't work.
Well, again, this leads on to the straw man that we spoke about briefly, the SQV trust that we spoke about, that was created in 666, the birth of the beast system. It's all connected. It's all connected. We've been screwed since, you know, for the last 400 years, pretty much. and it's got to come to an end. It's all got to, the house of cards is beginning to fold, it's beginning to come crashing down. But you know, we can't do it alone. We need more people to understand this, more people to take the banks to court and threaten them and say, well, look, if you
aware,
don't,
aren't you, in the middle of this virus, that the banks and people with loans are giving you holiday. They call it a holiday. So
yeah,
basically, they were set up. They were already there for years. If you had problems, you could go for a holiday payment. But because we're stuck in this virus, they're offering the holiday payment. Do the holiday payment, so you can have months off. And this is why I wondered why they could do all this, because you know you're thinking, well, they rely on your payments back, but that's why they can do it, because it's all fraud.
well, yeah, you're right, but then you've got to look at the bigger picture. I mean, I'm sure most people at some point over the last few months have heard of Jisara and Nisara and Jisara and so on and so forth, which is essentially debt forgiveness. Well, they're not forgiving anything because there's nothing there. But then what they're talking about doing is to say, well, look, we'll forgive your debt, but you don't own anything. So if we wipe out your mortgage and let you live in the house, no problem at all, but we own your house, you don't own it. But that doesn't work because the money that you, huh?
That's what the debt relief thing's all about.
That's right. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So what they want is they want you to hand over your house to the bank in order to be in a position where you no longer have to pay the mortgage. But you shouldn't have to pay the mortgage in the first place because the money that they gave you for the mortgage, you created when you signed the document, the loan document. So it was never their money in the first place. So why would you want to hand your house over to the bank in return for them saying, well, we'll wipe your debt free? What debt? There is no debt because it doesn't exist. Yeah, I know it's hard to get your head around because we've been so deeply indoctrinated into this system, but there is no debt because the bank have never ever given us money that they already had. Okay, if you've got physical cash and I say to you, Karen, can you lend me 100 quid? And you lend me 100 quid. I owe you that £100 because you gave me that £100 from the money that you had in your bank or in your pocket or in your purse or whatever. You physically handed me that £100, so I have to give it you back. I owe you. I'm in debt to you for £100. But if I come to you and say, can you lend me £100 and you don't have it, but you have the ability, as the banks do, to create it out of thin air and give me that £100, how can I possibly owe you £100? Because you never gave it me. You created it. If you're the bank and you physically created that £100 from thin air, created it out of nothing, so that £100 didn't exist until the time or the point in time that I said, Karen, please lend me £100. Until I said that £100 did not exist. It was not in existence. You then created it and gave it me. But now I've got to pay it back to you plus interest. Well, how does that work? How does that work? If I give you that £100 back, you've got £100 that you never had until I created that £100 by asking you to loan it me. It wasn't in existence until that point. So I'm not giving it you back, am I? Because you never gave it me, you created it. So when I give it you back plus 10% interest, so I give you £110 back, you're rubbing your hands with glee going, hey, I've just made £110. And I've had to pay that £110 back to you from my earnings that I have had to use my energy, physical energy, mental energy, or whatever. I've had to expend my energy in order to physically earn that £110 or £100 plus £10 interest to give to you that never existed until I actually asked you for it in the first place. So how the hell does that work?
Crazy.
It's beyond crazy. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I said, I know we've got 3 or 4 podcasts lined up, hangouts lined up on different topics and different subjects, but I thought it was really important to get this one out as soon as we can so people can start doing their own research and start watching videos and reading.
I think people on this channel are quite aware of all this. I mean, are aware of it, but it's good to bring it back because it is just such a con. Everything's a con.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything's a lie.
I think the purpose of this. I mean, when we spoke about it privately last night, and I realised how blown away you were, and I said, well, look, let's do this. Let's get this information out there. Look, I'm no expert, but I have done a lot of research into this, and I can absolutely assure you that everything I have said tonight in this hangout is absolutely 100% spot on the money. And if you watch Robert's video over there on BitChute, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But you know, the lawyer does talk a little bit of
another subject. You shouldn't vote. That's a con as well.
Well, that's another subject, but I don't think people are going to have the opportunity anymore. I think the whole the Western electoral system, I think that's gone now. I don't think there'll ever be another election as we've been used to. But that's just my opinion. But we'll see how that plays out. What's happening in the US with the this nonsense between Trump and Biden has basically put an end to the current existing way of voting. It has to. But that's for another time. That's for another podcast. But you know, I think for now, all I wanted to do was to get the information out there to as many people as we can on your channel and my channel. Get people to go and do their own research, and let's get together on this. You know, there's plenty of information out there. There's plenty of links on them on these. I mean, yeah, we don't need to put them up. When people go to Robert's BitChute channel and listen to this role play, all the links for everything are under that video. So I don't want to put them on this because people kind of need to watch that video in order to understand what the links are and what they actually refer to. Now, for the most part, it refers to America when it comes to the links because it's all US commercial code. But he's doing a follow-up video, especially for UK, for the UK citizens, and it's the same thing. It's just different forms that have got to be filled in, and so on and so forth. So as soon as that's up, then you know, we'll let you know. We'll provide the link. So, or if you've got a BitChute and sub, then you'll get a notification when next time you go there. But yeah, I just want people to understand that this information is out there now. It can't be hidden anymore. People need to do their own research. They need to check the facts, need to check what I'm saying, and they need to follow a certain procedure in a system that is designed to, it's been designed to screw us from day one, and it's still designed to screw us. So we've got to be ultra careful about how we go about this. But, you know, it's there, and it's something that affects each and every one of us listening to the sound of my voice.
So have we basically finished this podcast then, Nigel?
Yeah, there's nothing else I want to present on this. Without, I want to stay on topic. I don't want to bring anything else into this onto this topic. So,
well, we're going to end in a second, but thank you very much for explaining it to people. And yeah, thanks very much, Nigel, for the time.
You're more than welcome. We're all in this together. Oh yeah, right.
So, everybody, I hope this has helped you understand more. And thank you very much, Nigel. And chat room.
More than welcome, babe.
Well, anyway, yeah, thanks very much, everybody.